Shalom, Kol Halal Yahweh Bashem Awashai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers that do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners. And to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malchaamah from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this is the book called Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, and it was put together by Ronald Sanders, and the foreword is by Michael Doris. All right, Ronald Sanders set out to disprove that the natives of the Americas were the Israelites, and in his research he found it in fact that they were. And just so you know, this book now goes for about $10,000 brand new in hardback. I paid $30 for this book about 11 years ago. All right. And now this book goes for about 10 grand. So the water Yahweh Bashem Awashai that I picked it up. But before I read a little bit of it and go further into the lesson, I'm just going to show you another book that was put together by Elias Boudinot. All right, Elias Boudinot, and it's called A Star in the West, or A Humble Attempt to Discover the long lost 10 tribes of Israel, preparatory to their return to Jerusalem. Which and this is from the British Library, and basically it goes into the fact that the Native Americans over here in the America, the Star in the West, were reading and writing and practicing the customs from the so-called Middle East. As a matter of fact, let's read about the series. Let's read it through the camera. All right. And it reads, a history. Let's read for it. There we go. A history of the Middle East collection includes books from the British Library, digitized by Microsoft. The collection reflects the changing perceptions of Western historians, travelers, traders, and others surveying the Middle East. All right. It's not. Come on now. There we go. Text in the first person travelogues include illustrated volumes. Other works focus on the earlier history of Persian and Arabic areas in the world. All right. So basically what they're telling you is that a lot of history concerning the Israelites was found here in the Americas. All right. So that's just yet another book, another author that's basically saying what we're saying. And they produce the evidence. I mean, if it walks like a duck and sounds like a duck, 100% of the time, it's a duck. You're not going to mistake a duck for a goose. All right? You're not going to mistake a goose for an eagle or a buzzard. All right? Here's another book by Timothy R. Jenkins. And it's called The 10 Tribes of Israel, or The True History of the North American Indians, showing that they are the descendants of these 10 tribes. And not to mention that evidence is in the Bible in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. All right. But just to go on to show you that the evidences are just overwhelming. All right. I'm not going to go into those two books. I will read an insert from Donald Sanders' book. But before I read that, I want to read Psalm 68 and 4. It's just would be fitting to read it at this point. And these are the things that vocab and apologists and Christians like to ignore, that these Christian anthropologists that came before them, going back to the 15th, 16th, 17th, the 18th century, even the early 19th century, were writing history as they actually saw it. And when you read about the curses that fell upon the Israelites, the so-called natives fit those things, as well as the Negroes that came here to the Americas. But this is Psalm 64 and verse 8. And it reads, So they shall make their own tongue fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And one of the things he said in this book in the back, a new way of looking. Why? Because they're fleeing away from the lies. All these lies, man. Let's get this Psalms 85 and 11 popped in my head. Let's grab it real quick. Psalms 85 and 11, and it reads, "Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven." So the truth being all the relics that were dug up here in America, in the Americas, especially here in America, all the Hebrew writings that and the Hebrew customs that the natives were keeping, the Torahs, the Bibles, the relics that they found that clearly came from what you refer to as the Middle East. All right, but let's talk about this Spanish Portuguese, this Spanish Moreno, this Portuguese Moreno named Antonio Montezinos. All right, and this is out of on page 30 in the Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. Chapter 30 on page 363, and it reads, "In September 1644, a Portuguese Moreno named Antonio de Montezinos arrived in Amsterdam after have lived for some years in South America and proceeded to tell leaders of the recently established Jewish community their story that caused them to think of him as a latter-day Eldad the Danite." All right, that's something we really don't. We'll talk about that another time. It says 2.5 years before, he had told them while traveling in the wild mountains of Quito, he had heard some of his Indian guides remark that the natives of the country deserved all the suffering that they had undergone at the hands of the Spaniards. When he asked them to explain why they thought such a thing, they had replied mysteriously that it is because we were so badly treated, a holy people, the greatest of the world. Nothing more had been offered by them on this point. But the latter, in the same conversation, Francisco, one of the Indian guides, had declared that his countrymen would be avenged upon the Spaniards in time anyway, by means of people now hidden. And they pay a close attention to that word hidden, because that's the spirit. I didn't even know that was going to be here, because I'm going to base this lesson off that word hidden. All right, the hidden and the scattered. Okay, it says two references apparently were to the same people, but Montezinos, not seeing their full meaning in the moment, had put the whole matter out of his mind for the time being. Upon his return to Cartagena, the Judaizing Montezinos had found himself accused by Inquisition and put in prison. Praying for salvation in his cell, he recently was reciting what was the standard formula among the New World Morenos. Now remember, these Morenos are what? Sephardic Jews, crypto Jews, and Moors that were expelled from Portugal, Spain. They lost Spain to the Spaniards. All right, and then they were scattered all across Europe, and many came to America. To America, they had strongholds all across Europe. That information can be found mainly in not Ronald Sanders, but J.A. Rogers' book, Nature Knows No Color Lines, where you see all the coats of arms. And they most of them that left Spain, Portugal, and France, for that fact, they went by a new name, and that name was called the Huguenots. All right, but they were indeed Israelites. Okay, so it is very well possible that this man we're reading about was one of those Huguenots. All right, but it says, "The New World Morenos, blessed be the name of the Lord, who has not made me an idolater." I don't want to lose that. It says a barbarian, a Negro, an Indian. All right. When suddenly he stopped those Indians. Notice he didn't say those Negroes too. He told himself, but he was a Negro. He's a Moreno. It says, he told himself, they are Hebrews. Pondering his thought incredulously, yet with growing conviction, he resolved that if he were ever released, he would seek out the Indian Francisco and try to learn the truth. And let me just jump down. It says, because he went on a trip, Now, let me read this. It says, Montezinos' story unclear as the circumstances of his incarceration is equally unclear as those of his release. But released he was, and he immediately went to Francisco, revealing himself as a Jew. Montezinos proclaiming his conviction that Francisco's hidden people were the same race as he. And he was a Portuguese Moreno. Right? The definition of Moreno is what? You look it up on Antimon online, and it's going to tell you a Jew or more, a Christian from the 1500s. All right, we all know who the Moors were, and they right. So the Jews and the Moors were same people. And hold on, I have a photo of a copy of a book by John Mackey. All right, and matter of fact, I'll just read it through the camera lens. All right, and it says in a book by John Mackey, page 26 and 27, called The Memoirs of the Secret Services, 1733, he described the Secretary of State of Great Britain as a very black man, all right? A very black man, like a Spaniard or a Jew. So he's letting you know that these Spanish Morenos were black, all right? And what Montezinos was making a difference between the Negro slaves that had been brought from West Africa, but they were the same people. So the Negro, the Indian, and the Morenos were all Israelites. Okay. So now that we've brought that fact out, let's go back to this book. Here we go, and it says, Montezinos, I read that part, revealing himself as a Jew, Montezinos proclaimed his conviction, and Francisco's hidden people were the same race as he, with Francisco lead him to them. The two men were soon back in a rugged mountain in which Francisco had made his initial revelation, marching relentlessly for a week before they finally came to a halt. It was a Saturday, Montezinos makes a point to tell us, and they had come to a river larger than the Douro, as the echoes of the Sambatayan and all this. Here Francisco announced is where your brothers will be seen. All right. Waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke so far beyond the other river. In response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing 3 men and a woman, all the Indians, to the place where the Francisco and Montezinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue Montezinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he were being identified in the conversation. She then turned to her male companions and explained the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montezinos and uttered to his astonishment, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Ehad, and which was really Shema Yasharallah, not Shemay, all right? Allah Yahweh Yahweh Akkad. That's what they actually said, all right? That's the proper. What he just uttered here was Yiddish, and we just did a definition on Yiddish and what it is. It's a Slavic and German language written in Hebrew characters, and other admixtures, and German, Slavic, German, and Hebrew language admixture written in Hebrew characters, and today accepted as modern day Hebrew. They just say modern day Hebrew, but it's not. All right. So it says, which means, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power, or Yahweh our power, and the Lord is one, making a separation between Yahweh and Yahweh Shai for that matter. They being recited in Hebrew, the fundamental credo of Judaism. No, they refer to it. There's no Judaism is a made. Judaism actually follows the Talmud, not the Bible at all. All right, they uttered a biblical prayer, a Hebrew prayer. All right, according to Montezinos, who was fluency in it was almost perplexing to the reader of his narrative. So I'm just going to jump down here to the end, the last paragraph. Francisco told Montezinos all he knew, these people, from his own traditions, his ancestors, to the eternal shame, had indeed made war on them and persecuted them. So he's talking about the curses. Montezinos Francisco was admitting to Montezinos that he knew that they were under the curses. All right. And it says, to their eternal shame, he had indeed made war on them and persecuted them. Only the sorcerers of his tribe had perceived that they were a special people. All right. And trust me, he probably didn't use the word sorcerer. It's probably a seer. All right. Which means a prophet. It says were a special people and had been and had given warning that they should be left alone. The power of these children of Israel, which is really sons of Israel, the sons of Israel is the true power. They had said, and everything inscribed on their tablets is true. The Bible, not the Talmud, not Judaism. All right. And everything inscribed on their tablet is true. At the end of days, they will be lords over all nations of the earth. And it said, that's what it says, man. And you know what? You can find the same information on page 119 and 120 in Christopher Columbus' discoveries of Spanish and Portuguese discoveries that was written by the Rabbi Mayer K. Serling. All right. Let me grab a quick scripture. Then we're going to tie this into the southern kingdom as well. All right. And I'm going to play a clip of this this video clip here that I'm borrowing from Elder Manata Zakbai from his video. Let me grab this scripture first. In Deuteronomy 28th chapter, I think it's the 46th verse, 45th or 46th. And it reads, moreover, these curses shall be upon thee and pursue thee and shall Deuteronomy 28:45. All right, and 46. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. This is how you identify the Israelites according to the Bible, apologists, Christians. All right. So let's let this play. All right. And because he says some very key things that I've been talking about in my sit downs for the last couple of years, man, about this false narrative, the creation of white and black and how it was placed upon the Israelites wrongfully. All right. Why? To create a false narrative of blackness so that they can control the narrative and connect you to the dark African people, which are a different race of dark people. But let's let it play.
Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a man got fucked. That's the story of black people in America. Shit, you all don't know you black yet. You think you just people. Let me be the first to tell you that you are all black. The moment these Dutch motherfuckers set foot here and decided they white, and you get to be black.
They decided they white and you get to be black. I had to highlight and pay close attention to that because I've seen this. All right. And that particular portion I missed when he said that. Let's wind that back a little bit. He said that when they decide that you're black and they get to be white. All right. I went back a little far.
So if you can imagine, if you put yourself there, you're in a slave ship, you're a slave, you don't.
Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a man got fucked. That's the story of black people in America. Shit, you all don't know you black yet. You think you just people. Let me be the first to tell you that you are all black. The moment these Dutch motherfuckers set foot here and decided they white, and you get to be black, and that's the nice name they call you. Let me paint a picture of what's waiting for you on the shore. You arrive in America, land of opportunity, milk and honey, and guess what? You all get to be slaves, split up, sold off, and worked to death. The lucky ones get Sunday off to sleep, but Make most slaves and all for what? For cotton, indigo, for a fucking purple shirt. The only good news is the tobacco your grandkids are gonna farm for free. It's gonna give a shitload of these white motherfuckers cancer. And I ain't even started yet. 100 years later, you're fucked. 100 years after that, fucked. 100 years after you get free, you still getting fucked out of job and shot at by police. You see what I'm saying?
Man, I'm going to read that again. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 44. No, I'm going to start at 45 again. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Now, considering all the information that I just read, let's now go to Jeremiah 50 and 33. All right? Because we just talked about Montezinos' encounter with Francisco, and how he learned that how he came to the conclusion that these people were the Israelites, and then he had conversations in Hebrew. Hence the reason why Christopher Columbus, all right, Mayor K. Serling's book, page 99, page 119 and 120, points out that the Spanish Morenos, the Negroes, the Sephardic crypto Jews, were used as interpreters. Why? Because they indeed were Hebrews, and that's so a lot of them. These interpreters came over here with Christopher Columbus and helped destroy the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, their own people. But this is Jeremiah 50 and 33, and it reads, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel, northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, the southern kingdom," the so-called Negroes, all right, West Indies, the Haitians, all right, and then it said the children or the sons of Israel, the so-called Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole, and Native Indians, all right. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. See you in part 2. Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Abashai Bashim Rakak Wadash Wa Abba Babal Shalom.